up for the trophy presentation is now underway. That will be happening in just a few minutes.
For years, Aryna Sabalenka built her reputation the hard way through sheer force, unshakable confidence, and matches where opponents looked beaten before the first ball was even struck. Her rise wasn't a quiet climb, it was a takeover. Every tournament she entered felt like a warning shot to the rest of the field, a reminder that raw power and mental grit could still overwhelm finesse and strategy. But the higher she climbed, the more the air changed around her. Dominance doesn't just elevate you, it isolates you. And for Sabalenka, that isolation slowly started to twist into something else. Because staying on top is a different kind of battle. When you're chasing the throne, every win feels like momentum. But once you're sitting on it, every challenger feels like a threat. Every loss feels like a prophecy. Every rising star becomes a shadow in your peripheral vision, whispering the same fear all champions secretly hate. What if they're coming for you next? It didn't help that the women's tour was shifting beneath her feet. Younger players arrived faster, stronger, and hungrier than ever before. Veterans could feel the pressure of an era turning over, and Sabalenka, intense, emotional, fiercely protective of her territory, felt it sharper than most. The tension wasn't loud or dramatic at first. It lived in small reactions, tightened shoulders, rushed walk-offs, and a guarded seriousness that showed she wasn't just competing anymore, she was defending something fragile, and that fragile thing was her image, her aura, her spot at the top. But the real spark came from one rising star nobody expected. Yala wasn't supposed to be a threat this early. Rising stars usually climb in predictable stages, a few promising runs, a respectable loss to a top seed, maybe one or two headline moments. But Yala skipped the waiting room entirely. She walked onto the tour with a game that didn't apologize for her age or her ranking. Fearless baseline aggression, sharp instincts, and a refusal to show nerves even when the crowd was stacked against her, that combination made her dangerous long before the numbers said she should be. What rattled the veterans wasn't just her shot-making, it was the way she carried herself. Most young players treat the top names like legends. Yala treated them like opponents, nothing more, nothing less. No wide-eyed awe, no timid energy. She stepped into press rooms, speaking with clarity and confidence, talking about her goals without softening them. For players who had grown used to deference from newcomers, that confidence felt unsettling. The tension with Sabalenka started quietly. A handshake that ended a split second too early. A press conference where Sabalenka shrugged off a question about upcoming talents like Yala with a colder-than-normal smile. Side-eye moments caught by broadcast cameras, little gestures that meant nothing alone but everything when viewed together. Fans noticed the energy shift long before any official drama surfaced. Comment sections filled with questions. Why does Sabalenka look bothered? Why does Yala seem extra focused whenever Sabalenka's name comes up? Something was brewing, you could feel it without a single word being spoken. And everything snapped the day they finally shared a court. From the moment Sabalenka and Yala stepped onto the court, the atmosphere felt strangely charged, like everyone sensed something was about to happen, but nobody could name it yet. Sabalenka arrived with that familiar storm cloud intensity, shoulders, tight eyes locked forward. Yala looked loose, almost light, bouncing on her toes with the kind of youthful energy that doesn't know it's supposed to be intimidated. The contrast alone made the crowd lean in. The first set was clean enough big power versus quick precision, but the tone shifted the moment the second set began. Sabalenka started taking extra time before each serve. Not a few seconds, entire stretches. Bouncing the ball endlessly, wiping her face, walking to the towel, looking everywhere except at her opponent. A delay here or there is normal, but this was different. Intentional, repetitive, calculated. Yala tried not to react, but even viewers at home could feel the slowdown like a thick fog. Every time the rhythm began to stabilize, Sabalenka found a new way to stall. And then came the grunts, loud, sharp, and completely mistimed. Not during her own shots, but right as Yala prepared to make contact. Once might be an accident. Twice raises eyebrows. 3 times, that's when the crowd started murmuring. The moment that lit social media on fire came during a break between points. Cameras caught Sabalenka turning away with a tiny sly smirk curling at the edge of her mouth, subtle but unmistakable in slow-motion replay. It looked like someone satisfied with a plan that was working. The match was already tense, already controversial, but what came next changed everything. But the explosions didn't come from the match. They came from the audio nobody expected to hear. The match itself was already causing a stir, but everything detonated when a brief, shaky, courtside audio clip started circulating online. Someone claimed a microphone near the umpire's chair had picked up Sabalenka muttering something under her breath during a changeover, something that sounded like a slur aimed at Yala. Nobody could say for sure what the words were, The audio was muffled, distorted, swallowed by crowd noise. It could have been frustration. It could have been nothing. But in moments like this, perception becomes reality long before the truth catches up. Within minutes, the clip hit Twitter, TikTok, Reddit, everywhere fans gathered to dissect drama frame by frame. People slowed it down, enhanced the sound, looped it over and over until they convinced themselves they were hearing something definitive. And once a few loud voices said, "This sounds racist," the floodgates opened. Context didn't matter. Clarity didn't matter. Emotion took the wheel. Old footage resurfaced instantly. Clips of Sabalenka giving Coco a cold handshake after a loss, a tense exchange with another Asian player years ago, a press conference where she dismissed questions about rising players of color with clipped answers. Moments that meant nothing alone suddenly looked like puzzle pieces forming an ugly pattern. Hashtags took over the internet. Master stand with Yala, Sak respect the game, Satkak investigate Sabalenka. Countries with large Filipino communities pushed the story to the top of trending lists. Sports commentators jumped in. Even casual fans who barely watch tennis now had an opinion. In a matter of hours, the narrative hardened. People weren't asking, "Did she say it?" They were asking, "What should happen to her now?" And just when it seemed the situation couldn't escalate any further, then the story took a turn nobody could have predicted. Just when the controversy seemed like it had reached its peak, a new claim dropped, one that pushed the story far beyond the boundaries of sports. According to posts on several tennis forums, a fan had allegedly filed a federal complaint arguing that Sabalenka's supposed remark wasn't just unsportsmanlike, it was hate speech. Within hours, screenshots began circulating claiming the FBI was reviewing footage and assessing potential violations. None of it was verified, not a single official statement. No press release, no agency confirmation, but the internet didn't care. The idea alone was powerful enough to ignite panic. Because once people hear FBI and investigation in the same sentence as an athlete's name, the story stops being about tennis and becomes something far bigger, a potential criminal case. As speculation spiraled, Sabalenka's camp made a decision that only deepened the chaos: complete silence. No interviews, no clarifications, no social media posts, just a sudden total blackout. In the world of public opinion, silence rarely feels neutral. It feels like confirmation. Fans interpreted it as guilt. Commentators called it strategic avoidance. Critics labeled it cowardice. Every hour she stayed quiet, the narrative tightened around her like a net. On the other side of the storm, Aryna Sabalenka delivered a masterclass in composure. She posted just 8 words: "Respect is part of the game." I hope we remember that. No blame, no accusations, just dignity. And that single message did more for her image than any victory ever could. She became the symbol of grace, the calm center in a hurricane of controversy. Meanwhile, Sabalenka's silence only made the contrast sharper, the public judgment harsher, and the stakes higher. But the long-term fallout would reshape both of their careers. When Sabalenka finally returned to competition, she didn't come back as the same force who once intimidated entire draws. The aura that used to wrap around her, that heavy electric presence, seemed thinner now. She moved differently. She paused more carefully. Even her stare, once a signature weapon, felt softer, as if she knew every expression was being watched, slowed down, and dissected online. It wasn't just about hitting tennis balls anymore. It was about surviving a spotlight that had turned hostile. Tournament officials also felt the shift. Whether intentional or subconscious, they began enforcing rules around pace of play and on-court conduct with unusual precision whenever Sabalenka was involved. Time violations that might have been ignored in the past suddenly became warnings. Umpires sat a little straighter, eyes sharper, as though determined to prevent another controversy under their watch. It didn't matter whether they were being extra cautious or subtly reactive, the effect was the same. Sabalenka competed under a microscope nobody else had to deal with. Fans were torn straight down the middle. One side insisted she earned every bit of scrutiny, arguing that the match exposed patterns people had ignored for years. The other side believed she was being unfairly targeted, punished for rumors that were never proven, forced to operate under a standard no other player faced. But the truth was, simple reputations don't heal at the same speed they break. And no matter how many winners she hit or trophies she collected afterward, the stain of the scandal followed her. There were whispers in locker rooms, side-eye moments from opponents, and a lingering sense that she was competing not just against players, but against her own past. Years of dominance had built her image, but one viral moment had reshaped it in a way no amount of winning could fully erase. Meanwhile, Yala's rise took an unexpected turn. While Sabalenka battled scrutiny, Aryna Sabalenka experienced something entirely different, a surge of respect that elevated her from promising newcomer to the sport's most compelling rising star. Her calm response to the controversy didn't just ease the tension, it redefined the way fans saw her. In a moment when she could have fired back, blamed, or fueled the drama, she chose restraint. That choice said more about her character than any interview or highlight reel ever could. Younger players across the tour began citing her as an example of how to navigate pressure with dignity. In a sport where emotions easily erupt and storylines can spiral out of control, Yala became proof that maturity isn't tied to age. She showed composure in a situation that would have cracked far more experienced athletes in the tennis world noticed. So did the corporations. Brands started calling. Agencies reached out. Her name began appearing in marketing meetings that had previously been reserved for established stars. Companies weren't just interested in her talent, they wanted her story, her grace, her authenticity. In an era where public image matters as much as performance, Yala was suddenly seen as the perfect ambassador for the next generation. Public opinion followed the same path. Social media painted her as the future face of tennis, not because of the controversy, but because of how she carried herself through it. Fans admired her balance of confidence and humility. Young athletes, especially in Asia, saw her as someone who represented them on the global stage. Even neutral viewers gravitated toward her, drawn to a player who brought both fire and calm to the court. Yala didn't seek the spotlight, but she walked toward it with a presence that felt inevitable. And whether she meant to or not, she turned a messy, explosive scandal into the moment that crystallized her rise. And the deeper impact of this feud revealed something much bigger. As the dust settled, it became clear this was never just about a mistimed grunt or a delayed serve. The scandal ripped open deeper conversations that tennis had pushed aside for years. At the center of it all was the blurred line between gamesmanship and outright disrespect, a line players have danced on for decades. Some saw Sabalenka's actions as competitive tactics taken a step too far. Others saw a pattern, a willingness to cross boundaries when the pressure peaked. And once fans began debating intention versus impact, the sport found itself facing uncomfortable questions. Veteran privilege played a major role. For years, top players got away with behaviors that would have earned newer names and immediate warning. But when the alleged slur surfaced, the conversation shifted into a different, heavier territory, one involving race representation and the experiences of players of color in a sport historically dominated by white athletes. Even without concrete proof, the viral narrative forced tennis to confront its blind spots. Social media only amplified everything. In the past, controversies lived and died inside stadiums. Now a few seconds of bad audio can trigger global accountability before officials even step in. Fans became investigators. Analysts became prosecutors. The internet became judge and jury. Fair or not, that's the new reality athletes live in. And in that reality, standards have changed. Fans expect humility, transparency, and conduct that matches the platform players stand on. Sabalenka learned that intensity without respect can flip into backlash overnight. Yala showed that composure isn't just admirable, it's powerful. In the end, the story left a permanent mark, the narrative of a champion shaken by controversy and a rising star strengthened by grace. One lost control of the moment, the other defined it. And if this scandal proved anything, it's that in modern tennis, the match doesn't end at match point, it ends when the world decides what the story really was.